Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
Well, it's Friday, you guys, and not just any Friday. It's the Friday before week one, where USC is going to face off with LSU in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. Remember, though, this is we were the first, but we're not the last to be the only caller-driven call-in show for you, the USC fans, to sound off about USC. Make sure that you give us a call. We're looking forward to you because you guys are what drive this thing. As always, I'm here joined by my editor over at Trezwire, Matt Zemek, and we're going to run down a couple of things we want to talk about, but you guys drive the show. Obviously, we know the game's on Sunday, but we were supposed to have the depth chart released yesterday and was delayed to today, and we're supposed to hear by about 5 o'clock today, but I still haven't heard anything. But the second we do, we will be talking about it. I guess worst case, we make some guesses and suggestions on what we think will be the starting lineup, but I was really hoping to hear about that lineup by now. We have offensive lineman over at LSU talking about how he's there to get into a fist fight for the game on Sunday. And your thoughts and predictions. That's what we're looking for. But remember, you call. It's your show. You talk what you want to talk about. Matt, how you doing today?
Hey, college football is back. I mean, we had 4 games last weekend, but lots of games being played tonight. I see our friend Adam Lamparello already commenting on Colorado trailing North Dakota State in the third quarter. Hope you took North Dakota State plus the points. That's looking pretty good right now. So we have that. And also, USC goes to Minnesota later this season. Minnesota has not scored a point in a quarter and a half against North Carolina's defense. Minnesota has a transfer quarterback from the FCS from New Hampshire, Max Brosmer. 3 of 7, 26 yards midway through the second quarter. So, USC going to Minnesota. That's on October 5th. Looking like a pretty manageable game there for the Trojans. I know Minnesota is probably going to be better in October than it is now, but nevertheless, that offense not looking good. PJ Fleck needed to correct the passing game with the Gophers. Doesn't look like that's happening. So some interesting notes from our former Colorado pals in the Pac-12 and also from our new Minnesota neighbors in the Big Ten on the first Thursday night of the college football season. And of course, the big one, USC LSU. Let's talk about it. Let's get your calls. Let's get your comments, questions. I mean, I know we've spent a lot of time talking about it. Hope you caught Matt Moscona of LouisianaSports.net and ESPN Radio Baton Rouge on Monday. Plenty to talk about from that show. So let's have at it. It's game week, and Sunday Tim's going to be there in Las Vegas. So that's part of him diving into his opportunity here at Trojans Wire. We love it, and I'll be holding down the fort in front of my laptop, and we'll do some post-game shows of various kinds. I will probably be here at the Voice of College Football Sunday night. After the game ends, Tim and I then might circle around, do something on Monday, and that leads us into housekeeping, just in case you've missed it. So our new lineup, our new schedule is that we're going to be doing what was the Monday show is going to be on Tuesdays, and this Friday show now, of course, moving into the Thursday slot so that Gary from Dana Point can watch the show, call in. And he can then watch his grandson play high school football on Fridays. I could say we did this just for Gary. Well, we did it for Gary, but we also did it just because we know that Friday night, there are some college football games, and the games are on Saturday. This show has more of a shelf life if we pushed it a little more toward the middle of the week. So that's the move to Thursday. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you get comfortable with it. And here's the other housekeeping note. Because the show was on Friday, why not stretch out, have some fun, go deep into the night, baby, get that third hour. But because it's now Thursday night, I have Trojans Wire, but Tim has a, really important day job. So this is not, this is now a work night for Tim on Thursday. So I have to say, no third hour. Third hour is out of play. And so we're just going to go 2 hours. And because Adam's been our NIL leader and, he just drops that quick C note in the past to give us a second hour, we do need to now, because we're just going to be doing 2 hours on Thursday, we need to raise that threshold. So $150 in the first hour gets us a second hour here at the Voice of College Football. We thank you for your support. So lots of changes just in terms of scheduling because it's the season, and hope you all get into that rhythm here.
And to be very clear, we're always on here for 1 hour. If no one shows up, you will be here for 1 hour, regardless, to talk Trojan football. Yeah, so we already have our first caller. Hang on 1 second, really quick. So again, we're changing. Our Friday shows are now Thursday. Our Monday shows are now Tuesday. And Matt, I'll be driving home, but Matt will be doing a post-game show, Matt, right after the end of the game on Sunday night.
I don't know the exact time, but hey, if you subscribe, you get a notification. Mark and I will be in communication in terms of a post-game show. So whether I doubt it's going to be like 15 minutes after. It might be an hour after, because I have my Trojans Wire writing obligations, filing our stories. So don't know for sure, but like we would say this. I'd say sometime 90 minutes after. So it could be a half hour after, it could be an hour after, it could be 90 minutes after. But like we're not going to keep you waiting too long. I'd say within the 90 minutes after the game ends. I can safely say that right now, but the exact time to be continued. And of course, how the game plays out, that's also going to have something to do with it. Like we think it's going to be close, so if it's a close game, that probably means, I'd probably need a little bit more time to write stories at Trojans
Roughly
Wire.
An hour, Matt, right? Roughly an hour. Roughly an hour, yeah.
An hour, give or take 30 minutes. That's probably a decent way of expressing.
So look forward to Matt. You guys, if you're scheduled, Matt will keep you updated about that post-game show. It's not quite set yet. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about this Thursday show because I have things going on Thursday as well. We might have to adjust it, but I am keeping in mind there are people on the East Coast, some great callers on the East Coast. So I'm trying to keep it at 7, but we might be bumping it to 8 because of what I got. So stay tuned. I know it's a crazy beginning of the season, but times and days are going to be shifting. That's why it's so important to make sure you guys, if you haven't done it already, make sure that you are subscribed. All you gotta do is hit that subscription thing in the corner right below Matt right here, and subscribe, hit that bell notification, and then you'll always know when we're going live. So with that, let's move on to our first caller. I know the number, and he got in right away. I knew one person that would not get shifted when we moved from Friday to Thursday. That would be Adam Lamparello. Adam, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Tim and Matt, how you doing?
Doing great. Excited. It's finally here. Finally here. You can almost taste it.
And thank you, Adam, once again for being our NIL director here at the Voice of College Football. We really appreciate your support. It's so phenomenal.
My pleasure. I love your show. I just had one comment. I've been looking at the LSU game and kind of analyzing the matchups. And what I see is that both teams are very similar, in how they've changed and the struggles that they've had. But one thing stands out to me, and that is LSU's offensive line. And I think we're going to have significant problems with that line. They're big, they're fast, they've got first-round picks. So in my view, for us to have a chance to win, we absolutely have to stop the run. And I think D'Anton committed to that. But to stop the run against that offensive line and those running backs, we're going to have to play some press man coverage. And our secondary is our strength. And my question for you guys is, number one, do you think our secondary is going to be able to hold up against using press man coverage against the skilled player LSU? Number two, I think that our offense is going to score points, but I do think the LSU defense is going to be improved. So if I had to predict this game, I would, yes, we could win the game if we control the clock, if we're smart and we stay disciplined. But right now, my instinct is that it's probably going to be something like a 40-34, 38-34 LSU game. And I say that totally reluctantly. So what are your thoughts and why am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think we do have to stop the run. I think there's a bunch of keys to this game, and it just seems it goes down to fundamentals of basic football. You know that they talked about, we'll get into it a little bit later. But but they are going to try to run the ball at us. That's the strength of this team, is on offensive line. But I can't remember if it was Matt Moscona or someone said, no, it wasn't Matt. It was someone else. They were talking about the fact that, look, this is a really good run blocking O-line. But when it's come to, really good pass protection O-line. But when it comes to run blocking, it's not as, I guess they had some questions on it. I don't know. Again, this was an LSU guy. I wish I could attribute somebody, but it was someone that I was listening to that I'm listening to all the guys. So, I mean, they know what they're talking about. And if you look at it, who was the leading rusher last year? It wasn't a running back, correct, Matt? It wasn't Daniels the leading rusher on the team. So if your quarterback's your leading rusher on your team, that raises some eyebrows in and of itself. So we will, even a great quarterback like Daniels, but we will see what they can do in the run game. It also is possibly what they want to do is what we did poorly. We're going to see if Danton Lynn has tightened that up front. If Henny and Nua have that line ready to go, setting that edge. And got those linebackers flying around back there supporting. So we've been waiting for this, right? We've been talking, we've been hyping it, we've been ready for this new defense, and now on Sunday we get to see it, Matt.
Yeah, we've talked this game into the ground, and tonight's the final night to kind of offer some summaries, some final bullet points, and really the central elements of emphasis on this game. To really get to the heart of where this game's going to be decided, Adam, and for everyone else watching here at the Voice of College Football, it's all going to start up front. And one of the obvious tension points is, can USC hang physically with LSU such that the Trojans don't need exotic blitzes, or they don't need clever, intricate stunts? Can they just do things on a basic level physically? Containing the run, having their corners hold up one-on-one in man coverage on an island. Can these guys just win their one-on-one battles, right? Can they win physically, athletically against LSU, at least to the extent that they don't need to get cute, they don't need to resort to, tactics that, they otherwise hoped they wouldn't have to resort to? Can this team physically measure up? And all off season, and especially at the end of last season, I made the point, Benny Wiley, what's he going to bring to the table at USC this season? And it could just be that Lincoln Riley had the wrong philosophy, that Alex Grinch's speed D, his finesse approach was just not the right fit. And now with Danton Lynn, with Coach Henny, woof, Matt Entz, Doug Belk, Taylor Mays, you're going to see a more physical identity. You're going to see Lincoln Riley's philosophical shift carried out by Benny Wiley and the rest of the strength and conditioning staff. The pieces could all fit together. They could all just fall nicely in line, and you see a much more physical USC team. And of course, not just a physical team, but a physical team that knows how to line up, knows where to be, is making these instinctual reactions after being confused last year. But it starts with the physicality. They might know the scheme. They might know where they're supposed to be. They might not. They might know where to line up and what the right read is. But if they're not measuring up physically, it's still not going to matter. So it's being knowledgeable and comfortable in the scheme that Danton Lynn is bringing to the table. But there also has to be that physical heft and that ability to athletically match up with a quality SEC opponent, neutral site, big stage. It's a man-making motivational moment. It's a proving ground. It's the kind of test that you play for at USC, you live for at USC. So we can get into scheme, we can get into tactics all we want. It starts with being able to measure up as a man in the trenches, on the edges, everywhere you're going to have a one-on-one battle in this game.
And remember this, there's a couple places in the country where you can count on there being elite wide receivers. When you think elite wide receivers, you're always going to know, even if they lose guys to the NFL. If Ohio State loses a star NFL, they're going to replace them. If USC loses star wide receivers to the NFL, we're going to replace them. Another school that's just known for wide receiver play is at LSU. And of course, they lose Neighbors, right? And Thomas, I always forget his name. Thomas. Who's the other receiver, Matt, that they lost in the first round? Anyway, they lost two NFL receivers. And the issue is that they're always going to fill someone in. And you have to know that they're going to have some tall, physical, athletic receivers. Kyron Lacey is one of them, and they're going to have dudes out there. So I'm glad that our secondary is as strong as it is. We've been hyping them up all off season. We brought in some dudes that were on the roster have stepped up, and I do think that we're going to be okay on the outside.
Oh, yeah, great points, guys. Thanks so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing our offensive line. If we can control time of possession and run into LSU and have a balanced attack, we can win. And the last thing I'll say, Colorado is a disgrace and should be ashamed for its behavior tonight. Fight on. Go USC, and I hope we pull out the victory. Thanks, guys.
Wait, Adam, what's the score? I don't have the game up right now. What's the score?
I think it's 24-20 Colorado at this point, but the way they've played is just really unacceptable. I mean, North Dakota State's not a bad team, certainly, but they shouldn't be in such a close matchup, in my view. But we'll see how it pans out.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for everything. Appreciate you calling.
Have a great evening, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.
All right. It's good to see Adam jumping in. But you guys, maybe it's a move to Thursday, but that is our one call of the day. So we have nothing in the queue. Love to hear from you guys. 888-997-4539. 888-99-RILEY. Give us a call. I just want to take a quick second to thank. The best way you can thank us, obviously, is by leaving us a like and subscribing. But on top of that, also, if you're on social media, if you could go ahead and you could retweet the show. Like, for instance, thank you, Rusty. Rusty at Fight On Rusty has been a huge supporter of the channel, as well as Gabe at Trojan Blade and Preston. Thank you guys, all three of you guys, for retweeting it. Make sure that you guys are checking out all their work on their channels. And again, I've said it in the past about 100 times. If you're not checking out Rusty's Twitter account, if you're not following him, you're missing out on some comedy gold, because I just don't see anybody that trolls other fan bases better than him. Well, Matt, it looks like there's going to be a conversation between you and me tonight, because we have 73 people. It's a sparse show. So we're going to have to string it out. You guys have us for a couple of hours. Oh, wait, hang on. Here's another call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi guys, it's Dave from Iowa.
Hey Dave, how you doing?
Good. Sorry. I mean, in terms of the show, we're about 20 minutes in, but I was just on the Tunnel Vision Ryan's show. Have you guys talked about the depth chart being released?
That's my question. Has the depth chart been released? I haven't looked since I started the show. So about 15 minutes before the show starts, I have to go. But at that point, I hadn't seen it. So we're going to pop it up. As you talk, I'll go ahead and pull it up. Go ahead. Did you have a point?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. You can go on.
Well, no. Go ahead. It's your show, remember? That's how we do this. Dave, did you have... Yeah, Dave.
Up there.
That's okay. Dave, did you have something for us? You called in? Did you want to talk about SC football?
You're kind of breaking up there. Sorry. Should I call back?
That's okay. Yeah. Dave, having some technical issues. Go ahead and hang up and call back. Sure. No problem. All right. So Dave's going to call back in a minute. I'm going to pull up the depth chart. So Matt, any predictions before I pull this thing up? Is there one position you think give me one position on offense, one position on defense that you think might be the wild card? We know there's a bunch of spots that are pretty clear, but what were the spots that you needed some clarity on as far as waiting for this depth chart to be released?
Defensive line, I think that's the first place you go to, right? Because the secondary is pretty nailed down. 4 of the 5 starting spots on the offensive line are spoken for. Receivers, running backs, it's defensive line. I think that's really where the intrigue is.
Anything else? I'm looking it up, so maybe if you could I could look it up while you're talking.
Okay. Well, that's the main thing, and I think on a larger level, let's go back a year. All right, go back into the start of the season. The coaching staff rotated a lot of players early in the season, and I will admit to being wrong about praising the coaching staff a year ago, because I thought what they were doing, because the schedule was so light and fluffy early in the season, San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, Colorado, very soft first 5 games. My thought process was mix and match, find combinations, see what works, see what doesn't. And then when you get to Notre Dame in the middle of the season, then you get the tough back end of the schedule. You know what you have. You have guys that you can go to battle with. It didn't really work out that way. So, I mean, I got that wrong. And, what turned out to be the truth was coaches were mixing and matching because no one was really stepping up. And no one was really stepping up because the coaches weren't really doing a good job of developing the players that they had. So what we had in 2023 at USC was a case of got a lot different guys were getting playing time early in the season, not because the coaches were playing chess, but because they just didn't have solid number ones. This year, it could be very different. You could see a lot of different guys getting reps, but it's not a case of no one failing to step up. It could be something very different. It could be, wow, there's actually more depth at these positions than previously thought. Like, we have a good player, we're going to give him time, but we're going to plug in another good player, give him time, make sure that we keep these guys fresh for the grind of the Big Ten and this murderous schedule. It could be that lots of guys are getting playing time, not because they're failing to step up and claim their role, but just because, hey, they're more good players. And we now have better coaches developing these players. So on the defensive line with Coach Henne and Sean Nua, that dynamic, that different dynamic compared to 2023 could really show up, and it could be a big boost to USC, if that turns out to be the case, that you just have a lot of really good guys coached well, very different from last year.
Okay. Here's the depth chart. And also, by the way, just before I forget this, Matt, we jumped over this about 2 weeks ago. Moose gave us 5 memberships, Moose, and you weren't properly thanks for that. So Moose, thank you so much for those 5 super chats memberships that you donated to the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you. Sorry we missed that. That's totally our bad. Especially on this call-in show, you guys, I'm going to tell you guys, I love the chat. The chat's one of my favorite things in the entire world. But when I got 85 things going on between phone calls, visuals, overlays, etc., it gets a bit crazy. But I appreciate you, Moose, for doing that for us, and want to make sure we gave you your proper props for that. And then we have a call in right now, but we also had a couple more super chats that came in. Tyler Evans, thank you so much. As a Notre Dame fan, I always respected USC, and I'll be rooting that is weekend. But quick question: whose defense you believe that will show out? So both defenses have a lot to prove, right? I mean, that's really been the story of the offseason, probably for both schools, because last year's defenses at both schools were, let's face it, pretty much historically bad. And you have Blake Baker coming in over at LSU, and you have Danton Lynn coming in at USC. The difference I have here is USC made a lot of personnel changes. LSU fans in the chat, if you want to correct me on that, it looks like USC not only upgraded their coaching staff, but they also upgraded their roster. So there's been a lot. That's why when you hear a lot of the national pundits talking about, I mean, again, I love the cover 3 guys, but I keep hearing them say, well, what about that defense? Well, what about that defense? We don't know what this defense is. So if your premise is why USC is going to struggle this year is about the defense, and you start talking about last year's defense, you're completely, you're just being lazy. So we don't know. I could hype it. Other people can trash it, but we're going to find out on Sunday what those moves actually did for us. Again, look, I believe USC did more. So if you ask me which one do I believe is going to show out, I think it's going to be USC. I think the moves they made both in personnel and coaching, I think were great. The question mark is Danton Lynn. He's only been a coordinator for 1 year. But I think that has a lot to do with, look at the pieces they brought in. One big piece they brought in around him was with Matt Entz, who has a lot of experience. So you bring in a guy with a lot of experience to work with the guy that's the great new mind in defensive coordinators, a new hotshot. And then you support him with guys that have been around the block a couple of times, winning national championships like he did at North Dakota State. So I'm excited about USC's defense. Matt, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the depth chart here, and I'm seeing, what you're seeing. And one of the things that immediately jumps out is Kobe Pepe, not a 1. He's a backup. But hey, the coaches have been praising Kobe Pepe a lot in camp. So I'm not necessarily surprised or disappointed by that. That tells me it's what I was talking about just a few moments ago. Kobe Pepe not being a 1 might not mean that he's falling short. It's that, whoa, Nate Clifton's really doing something positive and Kobe Pepe is doing something really positive. So there's more quality on that defensive line than perhaps previously envisioned. So I think I take some optimism there from Kobe Pepe being a backup. Again, it's not because he's failed to put in some good work in camp. It's that Nate Clifton's raising the bar higher. That's what you want. Like that is Pete Carroll's always compete mantra lived out. You have one guy doing really well, but another guy setting the bar even higher with Pepe and Clifton. So just right there, like I view that as a positive sign, and I think most USC fans will as well.
Well, remember though, like it's just like if you see for instance, if you're not starting yet at the receiver position, it's a position that's rotated, just like a defensive line. It's not like the starting quarterback, right? Starting quarterback's the starting quarterback. There's not a lot of movement there. But as far as when you look at the depth chart on the defensive line, especially defensive tackle, they're going to be rotating those guys. And I think they are deep enough. Looking at those names, I think that you're going to see a good, healthy rotation. Getting into what we were talking about, having how do you finish the game? How can you finish that fourth quarter, especially when they're trying to run at you? What do you have left in the tank in early on when you're still trying to get in that game shape, right? And then later in the season, rotating your guys, keeping them healthy, keeping them fresh, also very, very important. So great question, Tyler. Thank you so much for being here. And then we had another one, Roy Banuelos check in. Thank you so much, Roy. Again, Roy is Micah Banuelos' dad. And Roy, you blew me away. I was reading in the comment section of Trojan Blade in a video we're talking, and you brought up that Micah was discussed, and you talked about his wingspan. If you want to go ahead and drop his wingspan in the chat, just to blow everyone else away for me, I don't want to misquote it. It was pretty amazing to see. So thank you, Roy, for being here and being a great supporter. Again, you're one of the guys that have been here from the very beginning, and your support is greatly appreciated. Caller, thank you so much for being patient. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Not only have I been patient, I've been there from the beginning. What's going on, Matt and Tim? How you doing? It's Avery.
Avery, what's up, man? How are you doing? Avery is going to keep me straight and correct, because if I run my mouth in the offseason, Avery will be here sometime in September to tell me where I was wrong. And I do appreciate that, Avery. How you doing tonight?
I mean, you my guy, you and Matt. I mean, true Trojan fans. I will be in Vegas. I will be sitting next to other Trojan fans in the family. My father is coming. I want to show him that this is one of the programs and why this is the program that I follow. I'm just excited. I'm excited about this weekend. I think you kind of hint on it or alluded to it earlier with your pretext in your previous statement. I am more welcome to see the upgrades just from a coaching standpoint this season than anything else. I personally think not only are we going to see the upgrades from a philosophy and ideology standpoint on the defensive side of the ball, but I think Lincoln is going to, the same way in years past we say in the middle of the season someone's going to sprout out from the scout team or from somewhere on the low ranks of the depth chart. I think the same thing is going to happen this year with Lincoln from an offensive, from a personnel, from a coaching standpoint. I think Lynn and Ince are going to ultimately give him that yin and yang that I kept alluding to months back. That's going to make him this coach that is going to push him to the next level.
Agreed. As always, Avery, you bring your knowledge. What are your thoughts? I forgot to get this for. Well, Dave's actually has some. And then Adam, do me a favor. Drop your score prediction if you could in the chat. I'm not asking everyone. At the end of the show, we're gonna do that. But for the people that are calling in, I want to post and talk about their score predictions. So if you call in, I want to talk about your score prediction. At the end of the show, we're gonna go ahead and do maybe a little waterfall of score predictions and go over those from the rest of you guys. But Avery, really quick, what do you have? What is your score prediction for Sunday?
I see us 34-17, 34-24. I think one of the more unheralded position groups that isn't really getting that much talk or that much notoriety is the defensive backfield. Yes, I heard the statements from the LSU O-line and they're going to run the ball down our throat. Yeah, I hear all of that, right? But right now LSU's in transition with their skill guys, and I'm not saying that each year that they don't keep one or two guys that are going to be pretty good a year down the line. I don't think right now that they pose the threat that they need to be when it comes to the strength that is our defensive secondary. I personally don't think they're going to be able to align with that, and it is going to be a trench game. And ultimately, with their inability not to run the ball, I think I think that's where we're gonna capitalize and seize the day, seize the moment.
Okay, and then looking at the roster here, any big surprise for you? I'm telling you guys right now. So there's been a lot of talk about this. I had been at a scrimmage that we weren't allowed to talk about, but now this is out. Now this is out, and you got the depth chart. Jalen Smith was really seeing him at corner, seeing the way that the players and the coaching staff had talked about Jalen Smith early on, and even in spring camp. I think they're just talking about he was singled out for that favorite word on this defense, which is versatility. And basically, he can play all the defensive positions. He could play both safeties. He could play the nickel. He could play both corner positions. And so this is a guy that's in a senior year just balling out. Really nice to see. I mean, if you asked everybody early on, look at the corners. It's Jacoby Covington and Jalen Smith, two guys that were on the SC roster last year. Obviously, Jalen Smith was not playing a lot of corner, but Jacoby Covington had some injuries, but when he was in, looked really solid. But everyone penciled in John Humphrey just because he's coming over, physical corner, coming over with Danton Lynn from UCLA, that we thought he would be there. And then DeCarlos Nicholson just had himself a heck of a spring game, just showing off his length. We just kind of penciled them in. But the one good thing about having this kind of a battle at those positions is we know that, one, if a guy's having a bad game, there's some quality depth behind him, but God forbid an injury, there is depth there. So really good to see the competition going on, and even going all the way up. Prophet Brown had a great bowl game. So looking at all of the depth and the guys coming in behind them is very, very promising to see. Any thoughts, either one of you?
One note, looking at the secondary, John Humphrey is a backup, so it's not as though both UCLA players coming over with Danton Lynn are going to be starters. There is Kamari Ramsey starting as expected, but Humphrey is a backup. So, like that speaks to the depth in the program. I think a lot of people might have thought, at least when he initially came to USC, that Humphrey would be a 1, but it turns out he's a 2. I take that as a good sign. I think that, because it would have been very easy for Danton Lynn to just plug Humphrey in because he's one of his guys. Like, he knows how to work within Danton Lynn's system. The fact that someone else beat him out for a starting role like that tells me that there's quality and depth at that position. So I think that reinforces the depth in the USC secondary.
And that install came in pretty clear and quickly. The fact that a guy that could supplant someone that played in the system all last year is now starting. One thing, sorry, Avery, I asked you the question. Now I'm going to answer over it. One thing that sticks out to me here also is, look right here, you guys. Look right here. I don't know if this is a message. I mean, again, at a post-game scrum, the message was kind of sent out, kind of a challenge to Bear Alexander. The next day, he was the first one at practice. Now you have an or. You have Gavin Meyer or Bear Alexander. You got an or for that starting position, which everyone pretty much penciled Bear in for. And now, again, he's listed as or, not so. If you thought there'd be an or, you thought it'd be down here with Clifton Hughes and Pepe, but the or is actually with Bear Alexander. So is that, like Matt says, is that just some situation where you see Gavin Meyer playing so well that they can't leave him off the field, so he's outperforming everyone? Or is a situation where you have where just Bear Alexander is getting a message sent? Curious. I think it's the prior, because again, Gavin Meyer's gotten a lot of rave reviews from the offensive linemen as well as coaches. He came in here, he put on the extra weight, and he looks like he's gonna be a force. So again, excited to see the competition is shaping up along the defensive line and in the cornerback room. Sorry, Avery, what are your thoughts on the depth chart?
No. As usual, you guys are spot on with your assessments. I kind of got sidetracked earlier with what I was ultimately trying to get out and alluding to when it came to the defensive back room or just the secondary in general. Let's start with Doug Belt. It's a Georgia guy, Valdosta, Georgia, Titletown. We just signed the guy from Thomasville, Georgia. I don't know if the majority of the fans are familiar with the demographics of that area, But Thomasville is probably 35, 45 minutes outside of Tallahassee, right there in the middle of nowhere. But a guy like Doug Belt is the reason that we're able to go down to these areas, these prominent areas of Georgia that produce high-quality athletes on either side of the ball, let alone defense. And he's allowing us to go there with his familiarity with the space card, the mantra, the aura, etc. Right? I think that's definitely a big thing. I just really feel like, and I keep saying it, me personally, we have a top 5 coaching staff. I think when this staff was put together, I called you and told you the biggest issue that Lincoln's going to have within the next 1 to 3 years is either paying them or figuring out how to keep them together, or as they have success, figuring out a way to make sure that the entire the ideology isn't broken up, even though you will have attrition by success. I told you that. I felt like that the staff that we've assembled is in that alignment, right? I'm just ready to see it at this point. I think also as well, the defensive staff, just like in the Carroll days, the iron sharpen iron type of situation. And I heard Hinton say this early on in spring. He talked about the defensive alignments, the mano-a-mano, the playing straight up, not so much of a gimmick. So I definitely feel like the additions to the organization, to the program, have definitely put it where it's everybody has to shine now. And whoever's going to be a weak point will ultimately stand out the most, because there are guys that are really, really good at their jobs now.
Well, great point. Someone just I guess someone's making a comment about Matt Entz and how he left North Dakota State in a worse situation they were for. Remember, Matt Entz just to become the head coach. He was on the staff for years before that. He started in 2014. He's been a big part of that North Dakota State. He didn't start it, but he's been a big part about sustaining it. So to say that, to name, they're taking, if I'm not correct, they're taking Colorado to the wire. What's the score now? Someone can update me. Again, I can't watch the game. I got too many things going on. But it sounds like they're doing fairly well against
24-20.
Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what this guy's comment is. But if you're questioning Matt Entz as a coach, I would ask you to do a little more research if you think that Matt Entz is not going to be a lights out. And by the way, he's not the head coach at USC. He's our linebacker coach, and he's definitely taking a job below his pay grade in doing that. And so he's going to be supporting, although he's a linebacker coach, I know he speaks often. He's talked about he and Lincoln have open communication about, just everything from practice to game day. And he gives it, and Riley takes the advice. It's great to have that voice in the room in a Matt Entz. I don't know what this person in the chat is talking about. It's a great piece that was added by Riley, and I think you need to do a little more research on the guy you're trying to attack. There you go. Great call, Avery. Thank you so much for calling. Appreciate you. Yes, you're here. I know we'll hear you throughout the season, so fight on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Are the two of you gonna be in Vegas this weekend?
I will be in the Vegas. If you see me on the field, give me a shout out. I'll know I'll hear your voice. I know your voice. I won't know your face, but I'll know your voice.
Hey, definitely thank you for Matt for all that you're contributing and bringing. And once again, man, I'm excited to incorporate or bring my family amongst the great school, the alumni and pride. So I look forward to seeing everybody this weekend, and fight on, man. Fight on.
Great call, Avery, as always. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what had me drooling when I heard about. And so to look at this wingspan, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. Is Micah what? He's 6'2", 6'3". I'm not sure how tall he is. Actually, I can look right here. He's 6'2". So you see, this was a big surprise for me. And again, I couldn't talk about it. We were asked not to discuss anything from the scrimmage that we watched. Micah was playing left tackle. And again, when I think of Micah, I thought he was an interior guy. I was thinking center, guard. But, we might be looking at just another situation of a Jonah Monheim, a guy that's just so damn good, you got to keep him on the field. And I've been a huge Micah supporter, really excited for what he's going to do. Wait till you guys see him. He did a great job in that scrimmage. And again, having someone with an 81.5-inch wingspan and 10.5-inch hands, that's why you're seeing somebody who's listed here at 6'2", playing left tackle and was doing a good job during that scrimmage. So thank you, Roy, for getting that for us. Caller, how are you doing? What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi guys, it's Dave. I can hear you now. Does it sound better on my end?
Yeah, you're clear. You were clear before.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that with my phone.
No worries.
Hey, good to be back. Yeah. So I see you guys pulled up the depth chart. Pretty interesting to see in terms of the oars, like you guys were talking about, in terms of the 1D tackle position. What do you guys think in terms of the backup Mike with Desmond Stevens technically being over Rajon Davis?
I don't know when you have an or someone's technically over. Actually, I think that they're if that's how the ors are listed, meaning he's technically above him. I don't know. I know Rajon is a hell of a lot bigger. He looked different in the spring and definitely into the fall. I've always been a really big Rajon Davis fan. Whenever Rajon's gotten a chance on the field, he's played well. And I've always reserved judgment on anybody that played in Grinch's defense. This is a guy that's finally getting properly coached up by Matt Entz. Is an absolute baller. And if he gets the opportunity, he's got it. But again, Desmond Stevens, guy that came on late, they were able to pick him up. Coming in as a true freshman, 6'3", 233. He looks all of that 233 coming in. It's gonna be a dogfight. But I think Rajon and Desmond are gonna have a hell of a battle there for the backup position. I really do. But it's not a surprise. This is stuff that people have been talking about. If you're watching the scrums after practice, these are guys that have been balling out. And recently, they were asked about Rajon Davis. Riley was asked about Rajon, and he said, "Yeah, he's looking solid." So. Again, the depth chart that's really not a huge surprise. But yeah, the fact that a true freshman, that's more of a surprise. But I'm not looking at how he's listed above him. So I think that battle's so close. When you have an or, that means it's between the two guys. It doesn't mean that now if the or was gone and Desmond was ahead of Rajon, that would be a story. But the fact that you have an or there, I'm not really looking at that.
The point I would add is that.
Wait, hang on a second. Yeah, what, Matt?
The point I would add is that, Doug Belks has already said he's going to be rotating guys in the secondary. It could just be that Matt Entz is going to be rotating guys at linebacker, though I don't think he's been as upfront as Belk has been in terms of talking about a rotation. But that could certainly be a possibility. And if so, Rajon Davis will get his chance, the chance that he really didn't get under Alex Grinch. And
one kind of interesting or while we're on the ors, you look at the freshman Brian Jackson, true freshman coming in, being listed as an or with Amarian Peterson, second-year Amarian Peterson, who came in with Quinton Joyner. So that's interesting. And again, I don't think it's that Amarian Peterson is not performing. I really look at that as Brian Jackson coming in as a specimen, 6 foot 230, and a banger at that goal line. If you guys watch the spring game, I think it's more testament to Brian Jackson than anyone else. I'm not going to say who it was, but they said we were thin at running back recently on one of the shows we did. And when I hear we're thin at running back, and I'm looking at that running back room, we are not thin at running back. That is not an issue whatsoever on this Trojan team. Dave, anything else for us?
Yeah. So over the past couple weeks, I remember some of the media scrums with Kate Eldridge and the improvement of primarily run blocking, or in terms of just blocking in general. So just curious, from that perspective, in terms of I guess what I'm trying to ask is, who do you think would be the number 2 tight end in terms of reception / yards between Walker, Lyons, and Eldridge?
I'm a bit surprised. Walker Lyons, if you look at his film, his high school film, is a hell of a receiver. When I think Kate Eldridge, I think more of he's like, and matter of fact, it was, I'm not gonna steal it from Gabe. Gabe and I were talking about this over at Trojan Blade. Kate Eldridge is that like H-back dude that really plays well, like in a Lincoln Riley system, going back to like Oklahoma, and that like H-back, where Eldridge was a running back in high school at that size, right? So you could see him as a receiver, though. I'm going to give it to Joey Olsen or Walker Lyons, which is interesting. Not seeing Joey Olsen listed here in the depth chart as well. I thought that's a bit surprising to me. Matt, your thoughts?
Don't have an overly strong opinion. I think it's how much of a rotation there is early in the season and how these guys perform. I mean, I think that the other thing to keep in mind about the tight end position is that Deuce Robinson is in his own way kind of a hybrid. I mean, obviously not a pure tight end, but if Deuce Robinson pans out as a football player, he'll have hopefully he'll have a trajectory and an identity close to Kyle Pitts. Remember him at Florida under Dan Mullen? Technically listed at a tight end, but like he could take the top off defenses. Like he would be a downfield splash play making pass catcher. Like that to me is what Deuce Robinson is supposed to be. But like he has experience at tight end, but he's not listed there. So like really, instead of thinking, who's going to be the answer after Lake McCree, I think we should start with just how much do Deuce Robinson and McCree combine for catches? How do they figure into the plan? If we're talking about Eldridge or Walker Lyons, I'm not necessarily sure that's a good thing, because I think you want Deuce Robinson to do well first and foremost, and then you want Lake McCree to do well. And let's remember the Notre Dame game from 2022. Everyone's going after Jordan Addison. Everyone's going after Mario Williams and the other star receivers on that USC team. And Lincoln Riley early in the game, has that little slip pass to Lake McCree for like a 31-yard gain. Really set a tone, set a tempo for USC's offense against a really good Notre Dame defense. So I would just say let's see Deuce Robinson and Lake McCree as the pass catching threats, and then we don't really have to worry about Eldridge and Lyons lower on the depth chart at tight end. And I think they might be more in run blocking packages early in the season. They might get eased in. But the other thing, as I noted with McCree against Notre Dame, they could just be there for that surprise play that no one sees coming. And with USC having another what's expected to be a really good wide receiver core with Lane, Lemon, Zachariah Branch, and Deuce Robinson, then the tight end might slip in there underneath for that 25 30-yard catch and run play. So not overly concerned, and I just reiterate, Deuce Robinson and Lake McCree carrying the weight at least early in the season, right? Like Eldridge and Lyons could be pieces that you see emerge maybe against Wisconsin on September 28th and in that middle third of the season. But against LSU and also Michigan, it needs to be the big dogs who are eating at this position.
But I wonder, we might see some 12 personnel, and I think it's going to be, you're going to see Eldridge out there, and that'd be, I'm not pigeonholing him, but I'm thinking the better receivers on the team as tight end receivers are going to be like McCree, Olsen, and Lyons. Walter Matthews is the guy we're not even talking about, just a gigantic, absolute stud coming in. He's probably going to take a little longer. He's a true freshman coming in. He's going to take a little longer to develop. But our tight end room, I talked about this a while back. Hanson's done a really good job of quietly building and recruiting, and doesn't often get the credit she get. But you look at that tight end room. You only have 3 of them here on the depth chart. But we talk about being stacked at a position and guys that were wanted nationally. Talk about guys that were wanted being recruited. You think about tight ends, and you think about Georgia recruiting them, and schools like Michigan recruiting, Notre Dame recruiting these guys, and they're at USC now. I'm telling you, these guys can play, and the position is deep. Anything else for us, Dave?
No, but I'll ask your question on my score prediction.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got?
So I have LSU leading USC 34-31 with less than 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. USC wins the possession numbers in terms of, primarily getting theoretically the last possession of the game. Miller Moss throws a touchdown pass to Deuce Robinson. USC wins 38-34.
I like it. 38-34, the comeback.
And for the people that are, hyped on the defense, but like, why the 34 points? Me personally, I think in the beginning it's kind of just going to be a shootout, and then it'll slowly, with the coaches making changes, that's the primarily reason why both teams are over 30 points.
Yeah, and I think that's why. That's why I've been saying for a couple of weeks now. We're going to know who this USC team is about 7 minutes into the third quarter, because we're going to want to see those adjustments. I think that it's going to be a heavyweight battle. I think it might be. I actually thought maybe the first quarter might be a feel out clunky, even though it's scripted. It might be a clunky first quarter. It could go either way, in my opinion. But I like your score. I'm very, very close to yours. So great call, Dave. Thanks again for being here. Fight on, and we'll talk to you next week, I hope.
Fight on. See you guys next week.
All right. So Matt and I are going to give our we'll go ahead and give ours at the end of the show. I guess we'll be doing that at we have an extra hour, don't we? So we'll be doing that just before 9 o'clock. We'll be giving that one out. Matt, do you have something to add?
Well, we don't have a second hour yet. We need $25 for that second hour.
Oh, okay. All right. So we will be giving whatever the end of the show. We will be giving out our predictions. Appreciate it. You guys hold off on your predictions because I want them all together. It's hard for me to track them if you're putting them, and if you did, you probably have to put it in again. So hold on. But I do want to hear from everybody in the chat at the end of the show what your score predictions are, because I do believe it's going to be all over the place. I do think that we're going to have a wide selection because, quite frankly, we don't know a lot about both these teams, but we're going to find out on Sunday. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling? Oh, sorry. What's up, Will? I know your number. Will ND from a Notre Dame fan. How are you doing, sir? Will, we're having a hard time picking you up. Are you talking directly on your phone?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So what I think, I'm not saying the Trojans will definitely win or they'll definitely lose if this doesn't happen. But I think if Bear Alexander and friends can get some heat on Garrett Nussmeier, I think that Trojans could win by maybe multiple scores.
Okay. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, just because I know LSU has a very touted offensive line, but I know the Trojans, obviously Bear Alexander and the rest of those guys, how possible do you think that is for that to happen? Like, are you confident in the D-line? I know it's going to be improved. And I thought it was one of the better parts of the Grinch defense was the D-line. So, are you guys confident that it'll be able to get Coach Henney can cook up some nice pressures on LSU?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. I'll follow you up on this one. But yeah, the short answer is yes. But go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think part of the chess match here is, does D'Anton Lynn try and get after Garrett Nussmeier by sending corner or safety blitzes early in the game, or does he save that for the third quarter? We all remember Pete Carroll. He would wait until the third quarter of a Rose Bowl, usually against Michigan, to get that corner blitz that the opposition didn't see coming. Didn't get it in the first half, sent it in the second half when USC needed to gain separation. Does D'Anton Lynn go to the grab bag early to try and force that pressure, maybe get a splash play on defense? Or in the first quarter, does he try and keep it really vanilla, and does he try to trust his guys to win one-on-one battles? And one of the big things about this larger dynamic with the USC defense going up against the LSU offense, USC's defense might play a decent game, like let's say B-, C+, not terrible, not fantastic, but not terrible, okay. And it could still get smoked. Why? Because this LSU offensive line is probably, at least on paper, the best offensive line that USC is going to face all year. Like, this is a better offensive line than Michigan. It's probably a better offensive line than Penn State. It's probably a better offensive line than Notre Dame. So USC's defense could play actually okay. Guys could really hold up well, but with LSU having those 2 tackles that are projected to be first-round NFL draft picks next year, USC might still get contained up front. So it's really going to be interesting to see how much does D'Anton Lynn try and rely on his front 4 to generate pressure. How much does he resort to blitzes, stunts, and tactics to get home? So that's going to be one of the obvious big plot points of this matchup.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to need to come with more than 4. I think rushing 4, you're probably not going to get a lot of pressure. And Will, that if you, even with a good secondary, you give Nussmeier time to throw the ball, too much time to throw the ball, it's definitely going to be a problem. And then I know they're banged up. I'm forgetting which guard it was that was questionable for the game. No, sorry, he was probable. Sorry, he was probable for the guard. It was probable for the game. I know they have a freshman center, but he's a redshirt freshman, so he's been in the system for a little bit. So it's not like he's brand new out there, and he was highly regarded out of high school. But you still got to remember, this is his first live game, I believe, that he's starting. So it will be interesting to see how strongly at the middle. We know, like Matt said, those bookend tackles are going to be an issue for SC. But Campbell and Jones can't play all 5 positions, and so we'll see. They're a strong unit. They played together. Their pass protection numbers are just insane. But I do believe D'Anton Lynn will be able to dial some stuff up to get some pressures on them. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And what do you guys' prediction is a little fun prediction? Do you guys think they'll take the Zachariah Branch, or do you think they'll try to keep it away?
I think they'll try to keep it away, but sometimes if you're pinned deep, you can't start playing games. You got to boot the ball. Are you talking on punts or kickoffs?
I would say probably more punts, but kickoffs too, they'll probably kick it not straight. But obviously they don't want to kick it out of bounds.
It's going to be directional punting, if it's a shorter punt. But again, if you're punting for your own 15-yard line, you don't really have time or place to get cute, and that's where you might see Branch get loose if he overkicks the coverage. But they might just kick it high and try to get that fair catch. It's a good question. We see how they do it, but I think either way, it's great for SC field position wise. Either you get Branch is going to crack one off, or you're going to get better field position as they play with punts. Matt, what are your thoughts?
So Will, I don't need to tell you, and I don't think I need to tell anyone else here at the Voice of College Football, that Brian Kelly's special teams has been a problem. So hopefully Brian Kelly's special teams will step on a rake one more time and they'll kick it to Zachariah Branch. Now that we're back in football season, like, we get to dissect game management situations, technique, teaching, coaching. And one of my pet peeves is like let's not pretend
when you tweet about it.
One of my pet peeves is, it's not as though punting a football is like splitting an atom, right? It's not brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't punting out of bounds taught as a technique? Like, the idea that you can't punt a ball 45, 50 yards and punt it out of bounds so that the return is out of play, and you take away the return. Like, the idea that you can only negate a return by kicking the ball high to get a fair catch. Why can't you kick the ball 50 yards out of bounds? Like, if you're on one hash mark, I will grant this is a little bit tougher if you're squarely in the middle of the field. But if you're on one of the hash marks, the punter should be able to boom the ball to the opposite side of the field. You're taking on a little bit more cross-field punting with the diagonal. You have more room to be able to still blast the ball, still get like a 45-yard net, and take a return out of play by hitting the ball out of bounds on a punt. The idea that this is not coached widely. The punts out of bounds are only for pooch punts, like Phil Mickelson sand wedge. The idea that you can't just boom a ball out of bounds directionally, diagonally, it just slays me. I just don't understand why that isn't taught a lot more regularly. So LSU would be really dumb to kick the ball to Zachariah Branch, and I'm here for it. I'm hoping it will happen. The other thing to mention about Zachariah Branch, and this is not special teams, is that Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane have gotten so much of the oxygen, so much of the media coverage, so much of the attention in and around preseason camp. Zachariah Branch as a receiver has not been talked about. And I said it briefly, I'm going to say it again here before the season begins, that if Zachariah Branch can really evolve as a route runner with the precision of his cuts and his route running, that could be a real source of tremendous upside for USC. Like USC's ceiling goes way up if Zachariah Branch figures out route running and becomes an elite receiver on par with what Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon are expected to be. So like you haven't heard all that much about Zachariah Branch as a receiver. If he kind of comes out of the shadows a little bit, boy, the USC's ceiling could be higher than we previously thought.
Yeah. So again, short answer for me is they're going to try to kick it away from, like Matt was saying, directionally and whatever, but sometimes they're not going to be able to do that. And if he out kicks the coverage, and what you guys will talk about with Kelly's track record with special teams, that might be a recipe for success for USC. Good point, Will. Anything else for us?
Nothing will make me happier. No, just nothing else will make me happier than Kelly's special team gaffe to lose the opener again. That would be funny. But no, thanks for taking my call, guys, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, Will. Good luck to you guys against the Aggies. Beat them. We need that. Mm-hmm. We need that strength of schedule stuff. Let's do it. So we have a chance to take
for
two.
Sure, especially after Florida State.
Right, take two SEC teams out in success.
Mm-hmm.
In success. So that'd be great. Sounds good, Will. Thank you for supporting the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
For sure. Thanks, guys.
Matt, do you want to grab the super chat?
Yep. So DML, $20, second hour. So thank you, DML, for coming through. We are on here for a second hour here at the Voice of College Football. And just for those who didn't catch it, because I saw it in the chat, again, we're moving to Thursday from Friday, because of the season and giving our show a little bit more shelf life before the Saturday game. So we moved it to Thursday, but that means it's a work night for Tim. So really a third hour is just not as doable as it was on Friday night, weekend, not a work night for anybody. So we're doing just 2 hours, and that's why we upped the 1 hour contribution total from 100 to 150, because we're not doing the fundraising for a third hour. So we needed to beef up the 1 hour threshold, and so we got there. So thanks, DML, for that. And we are on here for a second hour at the Voice of College Football. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
And don't worry, Matt springs this stuff on me all the time too. So if you feel like if you see shocks and surprise, you're surprised too. It's in motion, and we're trying to figure out our weekly schedule because as Matt just alluded to, we're gonna be going live on Saturdays. So we started thinking to ourselves, are we gonna do a Friday then a Saturday? The problem is Fridays work well except for two things. One, again, the proximity to the Saturday games, but also I'm gonna be going to Friday night high school games. Speaking of which, that's never safe because there's Thursday night high school games as well. And that's where Gary got hung up tonight. Although most of the games are on Fridays, they're also on Thursdays. So that's why we don't see Gary here tonight. So this is unfortunately, it's a work in progress as far as our times and our dates. Again, I naturally want to push this thing back a little bit later just for my schedule if we're going to do it on Thursdays and not Fridays, because it's kind of hard for me on Thursdays to get here, get the show ready, and be ready to go at 7 p.m. The problem I worry about that is if we're starting if we're starting at 8 o'clock, I know we have a lot of people, and I just hear the accents and the voices. We got a lot of people in the South. We got a lot of people up in New York that are calling us. And I just wonder about, how a late start is going to affect them. So it's fluid. So that's why it's important, you guys, take a second, please hit that like button right now if you guys are enjoying the show. Also, I know everybody does, can contribute in other ways. Not all of you guys can call in. Not all of you guys can be in the chat. Maybe you're on TV and you can't be in the chat. Anything you do helps out this show, whether it's like comments in the comment section after the video, if it's a message during the show, if it's a call in, if it's a donation, all these things are awesome. We appreciate all of you guys for being here on a Thursday night. But just know that it's going to be fluid. It's definitely going to be fluid. The good thing about a call-in show is that we need calls. And I'll tell you this, Matt, right away, I've been watching the call queue, and it looks like Thursday nights, granted, we did move from being Fridays for the past year to Thursday, but the phone calls have been absolutely sparse. So here's my challenge to you guys. If you're on here right now and you haven't called in before, this is a great opportunity for two reasons. One, nobody's watching tonight, so go ahead and call in. You don't have a huge audience to worry about. The second part of this is there's no call queue. So if you've been waiting for that first phone call, this would be a great time to pick up the phone and give us a call. Looking for some first-time callers. I promise I will not bite your head off. I don't think I have a tendency to do that with any callers. Also, last week, we had some callers from LSU. Love to hear from you guys. Anyone out there lurking from LSU? I saw a couple fans in the chat. Give us a call. Oh, maybe that's the problem. Maybe the fact that I'm blocked, no one told me that I'm blocking the phone number, that might be helpful. So 888-997-4539, 888-99-RILEY gets you right to the front of the line because there is no line. Matt, I've been kind of peeking at the depth chart as well. Now they pulled it off for everybody. But is there anything? Now we could talk about the captains. So they named the captains. Here's something interesting this year as opposed to last year. We're kind of wondering because last year they announced the team captains at Salute to Troy, which is the event, the end of the fall practice event that the USC Athletic Department puts on for its families and donors and fans to come in, and all the coaches speak. It's a really great event. And last year they went ahead and they announced the team captains. They didn't, and we were wondering what's going on with that. And then slowly it was people were wondering. And at the end of practice, Lincoln Riley said that they're changing the way they're doing it this year. This year, basically, you're going to have the captains for each game. So there's not going to be a season-long captain. You don't just become the captain and you ride out for the whole season. You're going to have to earn that each game. That competition is going even to the captainship. Now, he does have a council that he meets with, right? That he's been doing since he got here, which are a group of guys that probably those team leaders, that are those big guys that everyone goes to, the guys that he knows that he can communicate with, that has sway probably in the locker room. I think those conversations are still going on that level. But now, as far as captain and representing your team and going out there as a captain at each game, you have to earn that per game. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's a very Pete Carroll thing to do, right? Always compete. Nothing's given to you. You have to earn and continually re-earn status, standing. I think it's fantastic, and I think it sends a message. Hey, be good this week. Don't worry about the whole season. Be good this week, and then we'll deal with next week. I think it's fantastic on every possible level. I think it sends the right message. I think it means, this is not a culture of entitlement that is just going to be handed. Certain honors are going to be conferred on certain people, and that's it. No, you got to continuously re-earn your standing. I think it's a great motivational tactic as well. I think it's awesome. I think this is really inspired, and I think so. Like, if you're looking for signs of a real culture change, this is one. So definitely a point of encouragement. I'm not going to say that, because of this, we're going to beat LSU. No, but it does mean that, things are a little bit different. Things are being done in a different way. Hopefully it does lead to the better result.
Yeah, it's definitely caught us by surprise. I'm curious in the chat if you guys have heard any other schools that do it this way. This is the first time I've ever heard of something like this, but I'm interested to see how it works. There's going to be it sounds like it's been well received. So you're for the first game, your captains are Kyron Hudson. He's the redshirt junior wide receiver from Mater Dei, I believe. Akili Arnold. This is interesting. Akili Arnold and his brother Easton Mascarenas Arnold are both who came down from Oregon State, are going to be captains also for the first game. Jonah Monheim's the only guy that was a season captain last year, the 2023 season, that is on this list. And no surprise here, the final one is Miller Moss at quarterback. Traditionally, it's happened in the past. I'm not going to single out, but usually if your quarterback's not a captain, it usually raises eyebrows. So a traditional choice to have a leader. And, one thing about Miller, we know he's going to ball out of the field, but the one thing is unquestionable is his leadership and his presence they brought to the bowl game as well as his just the way he talked about competition and staying with USC regardless of what his competition might be. We have a call, Matt. Hey, thank you, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, you guys is from LA.
I'm sorry, who from LA?
How's it going? Oh, this is Dan from LA.
Hey, Dan. Nice to hear from you again. How you doing?
Pretty good. I just did want much. Just want to get you guys' opinion on how you think about what you guys. I don't know if you guys know, but it's old school North Dakota State giving big bad Colorado a close game, run for their money. But it's just funny to me that how hype schools like Colorado, somebody, or even the SEC can struggle against a team like that, and then like everyone turns a blind eye. I don't really say too much come Monday, but if it was USC, the whole world will be coming down and melting in a volcano. If USC was 20-31 against North Dakota State.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that fair, unfair. I mean, it seems like Deion has enjoyed the attention. There's a lot of media hype about Colorado going all the way back to last year, but not a lot is really expected of Colorado. I would see that if, and USC is not Colorado. I mean, I would hope we'd want to make that distinction very clear. I do see your point, though, with the media bias, but, the media has kind of turned on Deion and Colorado. That's what the media does, right? You build someone up just so he can knock them down. And so I'm looking at it as I think that they're probably going to be all over it. Question marks about hot seat, all the stuff that they're going to talk about. But at the end of the day, it's just, Colorado is Colorado. We're talking about a team that never beat all the attempts. They never beat USC in the Pac-12, right? Outside of, what was it, 2016? I can't remember the one good year they had. They had one solid season it was 2017, 2016. I don't know what it was. They had a solid season, but outside of that, it was Utah really that kind of carried the mantle for the new teams that came in to make it the Pac-12 from the Pac-10. Colorado was just simply for the ride. And I guess, you know what? I think that basically Colorado looks like they're going to be along for the ride in the Big 12 as well. Matt?
The less said about Coach Prime, the better, because he hasn't earned the attention he's been given. Let's remember this about Colorado and Deion. He got a second interview from 60 Minutes in 2 years. Just based on beating TCU, just the media stampede, the media feeding frenzy after that win over TCU. And TCU, okay, was the defending runner-up, but we know that TCU didn't have a lot of the personnel that got to the national championship game. Just the extent of the overreaction to that TCU game, as though this was all Colorado and it had nothing to do with TCU losing a ton of guys and who were figuring things out. 60 Minutes rushes to Deion's side to do a second interview with the same subject in 2 years. 60 Minutes very rarely, if ever, does something like that. So the extent to which the media tripped over its feet to give Deion Sanders all of this attention, this is just the boomerang. So, the less said about him, the better. Let's see him earn the attention. Colorado's not going to do jack squat this year. Hope you got NDSU in the points.
Well said. What do you think, Dan?
No, that's true. I didn't mean to. I wasn't really trying to give him. It was just based on the narrative on USC, because I also remember. You guys remember it was a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, the year when Texas A&M lost to Appalachian State, and then when Arkansas lost to FCS Liberty. How quickly that stuff was swept under the rug. They mentioned it, but you can see it wasn't harped on. I was just comparing how, if USC was to lose to a school, when USC lost to Tulane, it was the biggest issue in the world. Oh, you lost to Tulane. Tulane was an FCS program, but let USC be losing to a team that the country doesn't think is a good program, and it'll just be we'll get bashed. You have Paul Feinbaum on there saying the school needs to move to another state.
Yep. What else you got? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Well, listen, hey, I like short and sweet. Great call. Thank you, Dan. It's gonna be a great game Sunday. Sorry, I need to get you though. I need to get a score prediction from you. What do you got for your score prediction for Sunday?
I posted in the thing, USC 50-17, and pick 6 guaranteed in the first quarter.
Wow. All right. Well, listen, I would be very happy to see that. I'm not expecting that, but I'll tell you what, if we get that, I'll be very, very happy, man. Absolutely. Dan, thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in. Fight on, and we'll talk to you next week, I'm sure.
Fight on.
Wow, 50-17, Matt. I'll tell you what, that would make the pick six. I kind of see that. I do see that because Nussmeier's known to throw some head scratchers, and I can see that one. But the score, that would be amazing.
Hey, I hope we score one more point than LSU. If you want to add on, great, but I'll just take one more point.
You guys, if you call in, just so you know how my tech works over here, I'm going to bring you on to be in a call, but please do us a favor. If you do hear either one of us talking, if you could hold your comments until we address you, that would be awesome. Okay, so just hang on before, listen in, because you can hear the show. When you do hear your introduction, then please join. Yeah, that's the key, right? Just win and survive, right, Matt? I mean, it's great. And listen, 50-17, that would be a hell of a story to write. I'll tell you that. I'd love to see that. That would make every person who's covered this game's job really interesting. It would be lively on both sides of the aisle. So, however, I think we'll probably have a little bit closer right now. Caller, hello. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt, what's going on, brother? This is Manjeet.
Manjeet, this is Tim. That's Matt over there. How you doing?
Oh, Tim, Matt. Yeah, okay. What's going on, guys?
Well, we're doing great. How are you doing? What are your thoughts on the game Sunday?
Well, I'm usually asleep by now, but I'm just so amped up with the college football season. You wait so long, so I'm jacked up. I can't wait. I mean, the whole weekend's going to be great, but that Sunday, it's going to be epic. I mean, I've been listening to the national media. Everybody's picking LSU except Josh Pate. But I like I said last week, I think we're going to beat them. We're going to beat them soundly. And Brian Kelly, I can't stand. So maybe run the ball a little bit. I think our defense is going to show up. They're underestimating our defense. We're going to be there. It's going to be an epic game. I trust Miller Moss. I think Zachariah is going to make a player here and there. So I feel good. I'm feeling great about this game. I say we beat them by 2 touchdowns. I don't know what you guys think. Go ahead.
2 touchdowns. But again, I'm giving my prediction at the end of the show. I will tell you that I don't have USC winning that comfortably either. But I'm going to hold. You got
the winning though, right?
Well, I guess you get to wait and find out. Although if you
you better have them winning, man. Come on.
Although if you've been watching me for the past, I don't know, 2.5 seasons, if you think I have any opportunity to if I have a coin toss, which way do you think I'm going to go? I'm just going to leave it there. But I'm not giving my prediction until the end of the show.
Okay. And what about your partner? What does he have to say?
Well, we're going to give our predictions at the end of the show. We want to hear from you guys. This is your show. That's why we're focusing on you guys. At the very end, we'll let you guys know what we think. Yeah. I got you.
And Brian Kelly, I can't stand that guy. It's Notre Dame based. And then they're making a big deal about the offensive line. We'll just stack the box. Make Nussmeier beat you. Deanton Land, he knows how to play defense. He changed UCLA in 1 year. From 91st to 11th. Our defense is going to be all right. We're going to put some points up. I feel pretty good about this game.
Yeah, I think that's been a theme. All USC fans are looking to see how much we can do on defense. And guess what? That's also what LSU fans have been saying all season. The parallels are crazy between these teams. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the depth chart is making a lot of sense to me at this point. A lot of my concerns about the defensive interior, the fact that they're so sky high, and they have been really sky high on Gavin Meyer. And I know the younger guys are going to fill in. The younger guys are going to fill in, and they're also going to have situations where Kobe Pepe, who's getting rave reviews for the first time, he's got his body in line. He's getting that help and development from Coach Henne. So I do think that a lot of our worries, and you got Anthony Lucas on the outside, but again, depending on the front they're doing, those guys are going to shift around and move. So I like, if we can rotate guys and keep guys fresh to the fourth quarter, I really do like this defense.
You've been watching FC for a while, right? You know what this reminds me? I don't know if you watched 2003. Carson Palmer leaves. Matt Liner comes in. We're going to Auburn territory. Got the two All-American linebackers. Auburn, I think, was ranked number 1 at that time. Matt Liner, nobody knows, a rookie. We go in, Mike Williams, Darnell Bing, we shut them out. This is how it feels like. I think that this is kind of like it's kind of a deja vu. This is, as he comes to life, we're going to go on like a 10-year run. You watch. It feels like that. SC Honks think SEC, we're the best. You guys thinking Surfer Boy, you USC. We went up to kick their ass. You watch. That's what's going to happen.
Well,
That's what I feel like.
I like
that.
that. Different than that game, I like the fact it's a neutral site game. Where that 2003 team goes into Jordan Hare and absolutely lays an epic smack on Auburn. That level of win, I don't think is achievable in this game. However, I do think this is that statement game you're talking about. I do think that it can be the kind of a game that could propel USC in recruiting. It's going to be a game that can propel USC, reset some narratives. So on that level, it is very important for the game. Matt, your thoughts on the parallel between this game and the game at Jordan Hare back in 2003?
Yeah, I think
that was epic.
I think in terms of like USC wanting to make a statement and, having its prove it moment against an SEC team, like that's a very clean and appropriate parallel. But in terms of style of play, like that was 23-0. That was a shutout. That was a really low scoring game. It's not as though the USC offense needed to do too much, but just needed to, take what the defense gave them with the short fields, the field position, basically don't screw up. And Matt Leinart didn't screw up. He let the defense win the game for them. But like that USC defensive line against Auburn's offensive line, that was men against boys. That was varsity against junior varsity. Like USC just swallowed up Auburn up front. It was as ancient men of Troy would say, that was nolo contendera, no contest. So this LSU offensive line gonna put up a better fight than the Auburn offensive line did 21 years ago. But it is the same statement situation that USC needing to prove that, hey, we're here, we're back to setting the gold standard. Week 1 SEC team right out of the gate, and it's good to draw the contrast with last year. That soft schedule, we thought that it would help guys develop and become more polished players for the Notre Dame game and the Utah game in mid-October. Didn't work out that way. So getting this LSU test, bam, it's gotten everyone's attention. Like we need to be good from the jump, from the start. Probably a good thing for creating the requisite level of urgency within this team, within this program, and hopefully it translates to the field on Sunday. We are gonna have so much. We're gonna have so much to talk about after that game.
Absolutely, well, Matt G, thank you for the call.
Hey, one last point. One last point. Can I make one last point?
Yeah, make it quick.
The only thing with not is same as we don't have Pete Carroll on the sideline. Pete Carroll, Lincoln Riley are like worlds apart. That guy exudes so much confidence. We don't want Pete Carroll. That's the only thing. Right?
I guess that chapter hasn't been written yet. Let's let Lincoln Riley get more than 2 years under his belt before we start comparing him to Pete Carroll with the run he had at USC.
Carroll on the second year though. Okay, I got you. All right.
Again, your career should not be defined by 2 seasons. So it's too early to start comparing him either way. That he's not Pete Carroll or he is Pete Carroll. Quite frankly, there is only one Pete Carroll. He could be successful, but I don't think we're ever going to see another Pete Carroll. I'd like to see a very successful Lincoln Riley, and I think he could be that here at USC.
He was one of a kind. All right, guys. All right, great show.
All right, take care. Thank you, Manjeet. Talk to you next week. All right, the calls are rolling, although we do only have one in the queue. So if you do want to get on board, this is your opportunity. Go ahead and give us a call. Phone number's right up here, and we'll try to get you in right away. But as of right now, wait, let me double check. As of right now, we have nobody in the queue. So if you come in right now, you'll be the next up. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Brandon from Downey.
Hey, Brandon. How you doing?
Doing good. Hey, I wanted to talk to you guys about recruiting. It seems a little down. I think we're 18th or 19th ranked in the nation. Are you guys at all worried?
Am I worried? I mean, I guess there has to be some level of concern, right? If you're not up there in the top 10, but it's not December. I think a lot of the situation at USC is going to be, there's a lot of recruits that are probably looking at what they do on the field this year. So I would simply say to you, if they can show proof of concept that, hey, these guys like Henny, hey, this Danton Lynn defense is going to be something special. Hey, look what Matt Entz was able to do with the linebackers. Look at a freshman Desmond Stevens coming in and playing and balling out. Look at the corners, how they have been developed here at USC, and now Belk has them, et cetera, et cetera. I think these are some of the answers that Matt's talked about. The lack of, everyone's really talked about going back to the later Helton years, the level of development. And so if you see, again, proof of concept that this is a defense you can be successful for, then you're going to see the recruits come. Right now, I think a lot of them are on the fence, whether they're committed somewhere else, whether they're committed to USC, or they're undecided. I think a lot is going to change depending on how the season shakes out, Matt.
Yep. And when you, and I'm not talking about the caller individually, when all of you out there watch this show in May, in June, and on into early July, and we saw, Isaiah Gibson and Justice Terry, decommit, and we saw, USC not land some big portal prospects in the spring. We were all talking about, how, the NIL program is broken and Jen Cohen's not doing the job. And what about the general manager position and Doug Emmerich and all these things? And, all those items aren't irrelevant. They all have their place in the conversation. USC does need to improve its NIL operation, no question about it. That's what we were talking about in May and June and early July. But now that we're here, week one, LSU, now we get to just go to the most natural form of recruiting, kicking LSU's butt, right? If USC kicks LSU's butt, that's going to turn some heads. That's going to win some converts, for any prospects that have both LSU and USC on their dance card, a big win, that's obviously going to swing things in USC's direction. And so now that we're at week one and USC's playing this big time schedule, Big Ten conference isn't going to get buried on Pac-12 network anymore. So you have more visibility for each and every USC game. More people are going to be watching on television, and you're playing Penn State, and you're playing Michigan, and you're playing Wisconsin, and you're playing Notre Dame as well at the end. If USC puts together a really good season against all these big brand names in the Big Ten, one of the two best conferences and one of the two richest conferences in college football, that is going to do so much naturally for recruiting. And the other thing to mention here is that, all the pressure is on Oregon. All the pressure is on Dan Lanning to hit it big this year. If Oregon falls short and USC does really well, exceeds expectations, you are going to see a change in what we've had the past 2 years with Dan Lanning getting the huge home runs and the really elite class, and USC being several notches lower. If USC delivers this year and Oregon falls short, NIL operations have their place. Again, I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but now that we're here at the season, make your statement on the field. The recruiting will take care of itself. The recruiting imbalance, that's going to be corrected. That's going to be reversed if USC can put the pieces together, and if Dan Lanning can't coach as well as he recruits, an obvious talking point for the folks up in Eugene. So now that we're here at the season, we don't need to talk about NIL for the next 3.5 months, thankfully. Now it's about winning the games, making your statement on the field. That's going to change some recruitments for December of 2024, assuming that the Trojans can get the job done. So let's go get them.
Yeah, I hear you. And then question for both of you: who would you rather have as the quarterback to come in, Juju or this Longstreet out of Corona?
I want whoever Lincoln Riley wants. When it comes to picking quarterbacks, I think the man's track record speaks for itself. It's obviously he has Julian Lewis. He's targeted him for years. His game is phenomenal. I don't know. Maybe it's now the new thing on message boards. I think this is the new thing. So in the old days for message boards, the number one, the favorite player on the team was the backup quarterback. Always, right? Now it seems like it's going to be the backup quarterback recruit because people are really angry that Julian Lewis hasn't shut down his commitment. I don't know really where all these expectations have come from. It's almost like a level of entitlement. I do get the purpose of it. I do get you want your guy to shut it down, commit to the school. It helps your recruiting of their skill positions or across the board, the defense to have a top marquee quarterback that's the head of your class is technically who usually is the guy that kind of helps to recruit that recruiting class from the player level. But this is a new age. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could possibly think of, well, no, I don't. I'm not going to speculate. But for whatever reason, he hasn't shut it down. But here's what I'm telling you. USC hasn't moved on. Lincoln Riley hasn't moved on.
Yep.
So my simple answer to you is who do I want between Longstreet and Lewis? I want whoever Lincoln Riley wants. And I do believe at the end of the day, Lincoln Riley's to get which one he wants. Matt, your thoughts?
I want the guy who wants to play for USC. And that's really a not so subtle message to Juju Lewis that, hey, if you want to go to Indiana, if you want to go to Colorado, fine, live your life. I want a Trojan. I want someone who wants to be a Trojan. You know, there's been all this hand wringing about is Juju going to stay? Is he going to bail? You know, if he bails, then hey, he doesn't want to be a Trojan. We can get someone else who can fit the bill. So like, I'm not going to sweat. I'm not going to stay up late at night worrying about what a high school kid is going to do. You know, we saw this with the Georgia guys, right? That, you know, they came in and then 3 months later they were back out the door. You know, they didn't want to be here. You know, so be it. And I reiterate how absurd it is that a guy can be quote unquote committed to a school and he can still make visits to other schools like that. That shouldn't happen. Like we need to reform the process such that you visit everyone you want to, and then you make a commitment with a signing on the dotted line, and that's it. Like we need to make that the new norm. We need to make that the new process. And
we already have that. It's the media. It's the media that makes it what it is. And I think a lot of the problem is it falls back on the families and the players, and they get attacked, right? And because the narrative is in the media is, hey, this guy's not doing this. Hey, this guy hasn't committed. Hey, this guy's doing that. When in reality, it's a 17 to 19-year-old kid and their family that are looking for the best situation for them, not for the fan base, but for them. And so if they need to take until December to do that, let them. People back the hell off. This is their decision. It is completely 100% their decision. And for us to be like, oh, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. I think the answer really is, hey, it's always been, do you want to reserve a spot on this team? But it's also been a situation, I don't know about you guys, but I remember waiting all the way into February for a lot of these big names. I do remember it. And the fact that there's a commitment means this, commitment means that. That's just a big figment of what all of the recruiting services have invented. At the end of the day, these guys is not going to be closed until they sign. In the old days, it was like they would fax in their letter of intent. But as we've learned now, it doesn't matter if you transfer through a transfer portal. Rakes portals back out after spring, right? Jay Toya signs a letter of intent, goes through spring practice, says, I'm out, goes across town. I think that the more we place on the dramatics of when they did, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I get wrapped up in it. I've been getting wrapped up in it for 25 years. I completely get it. I used to do it before you had the recruiting services with the Best of the West with the Press Telegram. If you guys are old enough to remember the Press Telegram here in Long Beach and how they'd put out the high school kids and talk about the hot blue chip guys. I've been doing this for years and years and years. The one thing that hasn't changed is kids want to go to a school where they know they can play early, right? And they know they have a chance to get to the NFL. That's really where most of these kids want to go. Can you develop me for the NFL, and can I play early? Now the play early part's even more important because now with NIL and your value and your brand and everything you bring yourself, you don't want to be sitting, behind somebody for 2 or 3 years because that's that's possibly you're earning. So there's a lot more going on in this thing than it has in the past. And if Julian Lewis wants to wait until December, and if Lincoln Riley wants him in December, then that's the quarterback that I want.
Nice. No, I agree. I think the hesitation by Juju gets everybody worried, but you're looking at a lot of his fellow teammates, getting a scholarship and then committing. So you can also look at it as recruiting as well.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the best thing for USC, but again, I don't think any recruit ever should do what's best for. They should do what's best for them, because that's what the universities do as well. That's what the university will do, and that's what the coach will do eventually. It'll do what's best for the university, best for the team, best for them. I think the recruit needs to do what's best for them.
Awesome. Well, thanks for fielding my call, guys.
Yeah, anytime. Listen, Brandon, I hope you call in again, become a regular caller. Appreciate, like, a very local at Downey, again, just right at 605 freeway. So appreciate your call, and look forward to hearing you after the game on Sunday.
35-21, go Trojans. Fight on.
Fight on. Good score. Like it. All touchdowns. Brandon is going to keep the kickers on the bench, although maybe he's building in maybe a couple of missed field goals. That could be it as well. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Robert, I'm calling from Compton.
Robert from Compton. Nice to hear you. Right up the 405 freeway. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing fine. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind is that everybody's talking like the SEC, all these teams are so great. We got to remember who we are. We're USC. And I think it bothers me when I'm watching other shows, SEC this, SEC that. When Pete Carroll was at USC, we ran through the SEC. Even right now, if these young players understand what USC is and understand the brand, Lincoln Riley's bringing it back, and watch what happens this year and in the years to come. So fight on.
Yeah, great point, Robert. When USC is right, there's not a conference. USC does not have a losing record to any conference in the country. Let's just circle that really quick. USC's record against all the other conferences out there, including the Big Ten, USC has winning records. Matter of fact, USC has winning records against pretty much anybody out there that's a big name, except Notre Dame and Alabama. Name another big team, USC has a winning record against them. So when USC's right, USC just to worry about themselves. And I think that's what Lincoln Riley and the players talk about. They're not listening to the outside noise. They're focusing on what they've done to prepare for this game. They're not listening to any chatter from LSU talking about getting into fist fights and all the banter and stuff like that. They're focused on what they've done. They've focused on their fundamentals all off season. They focused on onboarding this new defensive scheme. And I'm really excited to see the product that comes out on the other end. Matt, what do you think about SEC, and just SC in general when it comes to these big matchups?
Well, I mean, USC is now part of the Big Ten. Like, it's so weird, right? This is a Big Ten SEC matchup. It's so weird to say that. We're used to having this be a Pac-12 SEC matchup. One wonders how that's going to affect anything. Also, the other thing is Las Vegas has not been a regular annual site for these early season neutral site games. You've had the Chick-fil-A kickoff in Atlanta. You've had the regular neutral site game at Jerry World in Arlington. This is the year that Las Vegas is really entering the rotation of Labor Day weekend neutral site games. So there's a very new feeling about this kind of game, that it's USC playing in Las Vegas. In the past, USC would play in Vegas in the Pac-12 championship game. Now USC's playing an SEC team in Vegas. Feels like a really new thing. It's really fresh, and now we just got to tee it up and see who prevails.
It should be a great game. Robert, are you heading out for the game? Robert, you there? I think we might have lost Robert.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Are you getting out to the game?
It was just a little static. Sorry about that. I'm here.
Are you going to be able to make it out to the game, or are you watching it from home?
It's just sounding. It's real staticky. So.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on with the call.
Okay, I got you. Well, listen, appreciate if it's something's on the other end. Appreciate you calling in. Fight on. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for calling in. I think also that's 2 first-time callers that have called in. We got Robert from Compton and Brandon from Downey. Appreciate both of you guys. Hoping you get to squeeze in a couple more first-time callers before the end of the show. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, buddy. This is Will I'm in Gulfport, Mississippi now.
Hi, Will. Thanks. First-time caller as well. That's 3 in a row, Matt. We got 3 first-time callers.
No, I've called once before, a few weeks back, buddy.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
I wanted to talk about. That's all right. I wanted to talk about 2026 recruiting. I'm kidding.
Right.
Look, it's going to be a hell of a game. So I got USC like months ago at +6.5. I'm thinking about doing a middle, but my main play is going to be probably wait for all the over money come in Sunday and then go under. But I'm excited, man. This is going to be I think it's going to be a field goal game. And, Will Campbell, he's talking about street fights, but that kid's the best left tackle in the country. And that's the best unit on the field is the O-line at LSU. I don't see how anyone can argue differently. But what's y'all's feelings on that?
I would say that your tackles are probably the best. I don't know if they're going to be the overall best unit till we see what goes out there. I would have to tell you, I think you might be selling USC secondary a bit short after seeing them. Although I have taught Matt Moscona from LouisianaSports.net, I believe. He was on the show.
Yeah,
he's very high. He basically said this is the best LSU offense all time. All time. And
line or
offensive line. Offensive line.
Offensive line. Did I say that? What did I say?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's the best offensive line. Starting with you have 2 first-round tackles. I would have to say to you that USC, when we talk about all-time offensive lines, I think it's probably maybe a different conversation. I did not know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out how well this unit plays. I know that statistically they've done very well. Here's my question for you, though, because I've heard a couple people bring it up. So your pass blocking on this offensive line is out of this world. Your PFF stats are really great. What's the run block, and why would you explain to a SC fan why was Jaden Daniels your leading rusher last year? And talk about your run blocking.
The run blocking for the last couple of years has been pretty poor. Not exactly sure why. I really don't know. But Daniels is just so elite with his running. I mean, you guys, he was with Arizona, right? So,
Arizona State, yeah.
State. You know how good he is, run wise. But when, it's hard. I don't know why. I mean, but there's been more of a focus. The run blocking is more of the focus because it's got to be because you just lost 1,000 yards rushing when Jaden left. And you were talking about kids being patient. Well, Nussmeier's been really patient. He could have went just about anywhere in the country, and he wanted to stay there and bring Tigers where they should be, which is I don't think we're going to make it to the 12 this year, and USC is going to be 8-4 probably. But it's so good to have football back, man.
Yeah.
But that game, that's going to be a hell of a game Sunday night, man. And what a great venue. It's really, and LSU's lost the last 4 in a row, game 1. I'm tired of Florida State. Florida State dominated them last year, so they got to get that taste out of their mouth. They got to win the first game for a change, and as if they're not, because the loser is pretty much done. They're not going to have a shot to get in the 12 at the end of the year. I don't believe.
You just mean that because you see other losses in the schedule, obviously, right? Because they still have their full slate.
Oh, absolutely.
You just see that there's games.
Absolutely.
That this is Matt's brought that up. This is a pivot game for SC that Matt, you feel right? It's between a 9-3 and 8-4 season or a 10-2. They have to get this one. I've heard Matt speak slightly to that as well.
Game, I think, for both.
I would say I would add
elimination game basically.
But I would say this. I don't know because hear me on both sides. I think that we both believe that Nussmeier and Moss are great quarterbacks. We know that these two guys are going to get better every single game, and there's games that we're chalking up that we think maybe might be L's later on the season. I mean, let's face it. I really haven't dug too deep into LSU's schedule, but I don't see a single team. And yes, Michigan, I'm talking about you. That USC is a guaranteed L going into the game. If this team is what we think the improvements have been made, we're going to find after Sunday. If USC walks in there and it's shown that LSU just runs the ball down their throat and they lose by double digits and they don't seem like the defense allowed them to be in the game the entire game, well, then we have to reevaluate. But if it's a tight game and one of them loses by, let's say, a field goal late in the fourth quarter or a late touchdown, they lose by a couple points. I'm not sure if I'm ready to say that team is going to just circle the drain and just not really have possibly a playoff season. I think if you're close enough, if these teams are good, both these teams are good. So let's say that we got it right. These both are teams that have possible. If it's good enough, though, if they win, they possibly can make it to the playoffs. I think if the other team loses close in a close game, I think that I wouldn't rule them completely out.
Well, I mean, you got two excellent head coaches, so I wouldn't. The loser's not going to, just the head coaches aren't going to just let them disappear. They're going to keep fighting, of course. But I don't know about USC, but LSU after USC they got Ole Miss, at A&M, Bama, at Florida, which they're down this year, and then they end with Oklahoma. So there's potentially 3 or 4 losses on there. I personally think LSU is 9-3, 10-2ish. If they get to 10-2, they'll probably get in there. But then that means they have to beat Bama and beat Ole Miss. But that's for another time, But I'm really excited. I like listening to you guys. You guys are pretty unbiased, which is pretty rare for college football fans. And I try to keep it the same because I'm a sports bettor, so I try to keep I try to be honest with myself, and I just want a good game. I want a good competitive game. But hey, man, that's all I got. I appreciate you guys letting me on. All right.
Listen, Will, that's a great call. I'm sorry, I forgot your other call. We get a lot of calls. That's not an excuse, but the call, if it was half as good as this call was, it's a shame I did forget you. But I'm not going to forget you next time I hear from you. And it's high praise.
Hey,
I know a lot of people.
Hey, I was born in Long Beach. Remember, I talked about Long Beach.
Okay,
I was born in Long Beach, California.
I got you now. I do remember. But I mean, it's high praise.
Yeah, and I was stationed.
Someone that follows college football enough to put their own money on it usually is not a casual. So for you to give us that nice compliment, it's high praise, and I really appreciate it, Will. And again, I do wish I wish you a really great game. I'm not gonna say I hope that LSU wins. But I will say I'm looking for a nice, clean game with a few injuries, and I want this thing to go down to the end. I don't want a blowout on either side. I want this to be one that both programs remember for a long time, regardless of the end. So,
and college football is better when USC is good. And that's a fact. Anyone that disputes that isn't being honest.
Appreciate that, Will.
Same for LSU.
Right on, baby. Right on.
Take it easy, Will. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
Off from the Gulf
Have a good night.
Coast. Calling down from Mississippi. Thank you, Will. Transplant from Long Beach. I do remember that part now. Yeah, we got it. You know what though? I let Will get off the phone without giving us that prediction. Will, if you want to go ahead and drop your prediction in the chat, because again, this guy's following his numbers. So I'm curious to see what Will's got for a score prediction. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Tim. My name is Johnny. I'm calling from the Philippines.
Wow.
Palos Verdes Peninsula, virtually. Yeah, I'm out here overseas. I am a big fan of your show. Big fan of you and Matt. And I appreciate you guys doing the Conquest calling show, man. It's pretty awesome.
We love it.
Anyway, that's my first time calling. And I'm really excited about the season opener. The time difference is pretty big here. I'm 15 hours ahead of you guys, so if the game is Sunday, I'll be it's like Monday morning for me. And I'm just hoping, I'm crossing my fingers I can actually watch the show. or watch the game, actually. Still trying to figure out how to do that. It's going to be a tough one. Anyway, really excited about the game this weekend. I wouldn't say I'm a sunshine pumper, but I am totally excited about this defense combined with Lincoln Riley's offense. I'm going out there. I think it's going to be a blowout. My prediction is 55-10.
I think it's a 55-19.
But that's Oklahoma.
Yeah, right. Okay. Johnny, wow. Listen, I remember this is before the internet really got rolling, obviously. I remember watching USC play Iowa. And I'll tell you, that was only an 8-hour difference. So having that 8-hour difference was a hell of a time. But listening to Brad Banks and the kick return and all that on internet radio way back in the day before you had streaming or any of that stuff. So I do know the challenges for you, but 15 hours that's mine was only 8 hours. That was hard enough. But yeah, I don't know about the blowout. We've heard a couple blowouts now. Again, we'll be giving our predictions pretty shortly here, but I like it. I must say that. So listen, this game could go so many different ways. Both teams have the potential to blow the doors off the other team. I'm really hoping. I truly am hoping that it is a close game, just simply because it's good for that entertainment factor and just the wow factor. And you tend to remember those games a lot more, the details, than you do the blowouts. I mean, remember the blowout scores, but you don't remember the details, I don't think, as much as you do the close games. So I like your score, but I'm not sure. What is your biggest? So you're talking about confidence. What's your biggest piece of confidence? What do you think is the biggest mismatch that's going to give USC a 45-point advantage?
Well, other than the offense, I think being combined with Denton Lynn's defense now, I just see that SC jumps ahead, kind of like when they jumped ahead on Utah twice last year, right? But they couldn't sustain it. If they only had a defense that had held them down, I mean, those would have been blowouts. And at least that's how I see it. Well, even at Rice Eccles Stadium.
Yeah, I wrote about this. I said one thing. I was talking about things that I'm not going to miss about the Pac-12 is I'm not going to miss playing at altitude. And I do think the first game against, you're talking about the 22 season, the first game in that was just blown calls by the Pac-12 refs. The second part of it is every time we go to Rice Eccles, and really anybody that goes to Rice Eccles, probably except for Colorado, you have that altitude factor. They're at over 4,000 feet in the air. Vegas is at altitude, but it's only like 1,000 or something like that, right? But you're talking about that huge advantage that they have. And it kind of helped Utah that after we were smoking them, and then Caleb got hurt, and that's all she wrote, right? And then late in the game, we lose 2 more offensive linemen, and that's really was all she wrote. But I like it, and I think you're on that page. What I've been on is the fact that if what everyone's told us for years, the Oklahoma fans back in Oklahoma, the national media for the past 7 years, that wow, what would ever happen if Lincoln Riley had a good defense? Well, I think at the very least he's got a solid defense, and it could be a very, very good defense. So let's. I hope you're right. If they come out and this defense is as good as we think it could be, anything's possible for SC. Same thing. If this is the best all-time offensive line for LSU, like a lot of people that have watched practice are saying about this LSU offensive line, that's gonna be a hell of a challenge for this USC defense. And Garrett Nussmeier, who sat there just like oh my God, dude, it's late in the night for you to even do this. Miller Moss, he can make he has the NFL talent. He's got that arm talent. He's got the physical tools. Can he get his head straight? And with a great offensive line, can USC get pressure on him? So there's a lot of questions. I like your score, but I like your optimism. I'm not sure if we get even close to that score. But hey, I would love to be here next week eating crow if USC blows out LSU. So awesome call. Do you have any follow up for Johnny? Matt?
And just in terms of looking ahead to this game, things we haven't mentioned yet. I mean, we have Barry Fisher coming in here with a $10 super chat, and he says if we can keep LSU at 3rd and long most of the time, we can win. Brings up a good point. Like if we're going to talk about various statistical categories, right? Time of possession is something a lot of people think USC needs to win. That's one thing. I'm going to go with third down conversion percentage. That, to me, third downs would be my preferred stat more than time of possession. I think third downs are going to be centrally important in this game, particularly just because there's so much talent on that LSU offensive line. Being able to get off the field quickly, not having that offensive line lean on USC over 4 quarters, that's going to be really important. And I think the other thing is, obviously we want everything to come together for USC. But like if we had to choose, right? So I just kind of introduced the choice. Would you rather win time of possession or would you rather win third down? Obviously, those two things go together to a certain extent. But like if we're going to choose, I'm going to choose third down rather than hitting a certain target in time of possession. Another thing in terms of choosing for me would be, do we want the defensive line to play well or do we want the offensive line to play well? Again, obviously, you want both. You want both to play well. But if I had to choose, right, if you put a gun to my head, Matt, you have to choose USC's offensive line rocks and rolls or the defensive line rocks and rolls. I'm going to choose offensive line because Miller Moss needs that clean pocket. He needs to be comfortable in this game. He needs to be put in a position to carry that momentum from the Holiday Bowl into this game. Obviously, I really do want to see USC's defensive line play well. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying if you had to pick one of the two scenarios and you get only one, which one would it be? I would lean with the offensive line playing well because, as I've said before, and I get to say this one last time before the season, as much as USC's defense needs to be better, we all know that. I have so much confidence in these defensive coaches. I think the defense is going to be relatively good. Might not be spectacular, but again, relatively good. But it's that offensive line. If the offensive line comes together, then that defense doesn't have to be spectacular. Like we're assuming the defense doesn't have to be amazing. It just has to be competent. That all of that depends on the offensive line making this a complete offense. Because if the offensive line isn't there, then you don't have a complete offense. Miller Moss doesn't have time, can't settle into the pocket, and all the pieces of the puzzle aren't going to fit for USC. So third downs are my number one stat, and my number one game scenario is the offensive line delivering the goods for USC.
Those are some good solid points. Johnny, listen, I know it's the time difference is crazy, but appreciate your first time call. And if you could ever call on live again, love to hear from you next week. Win or lose, love to hear your thoughts on the game. Thank you for being here. And I think Johnny set the record for the farthest viewer so far, without a doubt. So appreciate you calling in, Johnny.
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me? I heard a little bit from you guys. I heard Matt a little bit and then it cut out. So I'm sorry.
You're the second caller. That's fine. That's had that problem.
What I think is going to happen, or my optimism, is that they're going to jump out to a 21-3, 21-6 lead. The defense is going to hold them. LSU, even with their massive offensive line, won't be able to run the ball anymore. They're going to have to play catch up. That's how.
Hope that's how it goes. That would be great.
I think we lost Johnny. All right. Well. Okay. So yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a really good point. It's weird. We just lost both. We had 3 calls on the line. I wonder where they went. Hang on one second. That's interesting. All right. Well, while I figure this out, we're at the end of the show. Matt, why don't you go ahead and give your prediction for the game? So you've talked about some of your keys to the game, but if you want to break down basically score, that this would be the time. Because I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the soundboard here. Sorry, callers. Yeah. We had 3 of you guys lined up. I'm having an issue with the soundboard. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay.
What do you got for a prediction?
As we wind down the show, and by the way, part of our collaboration with the Voice of College Football, we're going to be sharing with you in just a moment a benefit that you get from subscribing to the Patreon at the Voice of College Football. We're going to play a 1-minute video in a short bit. But before we get to that, we're going to give our final scores. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I would take the over here. And again, USC's defense, just in terms of raw film study, film analysis, might play a decent game, but this is the best offensive line USC is going to face all season. So USC could play actually kind of, sort of decent, not bad, and yet the result still won't be there in terms of just raw points or yards allowed, just because this is a special offensive line. So we could have a scenario where USC plays a B- game, but LSU is still able to hang, 35 points because that offensive line is really that good. If USC plays this way against Wisconsin, they'll hold the Badgers to 17 points. If USC plays this way against Penn State, they'll hold the Nittany Lions to 13. But LSU is just so talented up front, it might not translate. So USC is going to have to score big to win. This is actually going to be, I think, a Lincoln Riley game in which, you try and outscore the opposition. And I think that the offensive line is going to hold up well enough that with Miller Moss and these awesome receivers and with the running backs USC has, USC can hang 40 on LSU. USC is not going to be hanging 40 on these Big Ten defenses it's going to see. It's not going to hang 40 on Notre Dame. I do think it hangs 41 on LSU, 41-35. USC wins outright, definitely taking USC plus the 4.5. So that's pretty much where I stand.
Okay. So I've gone back and forth a number of times on this thing. And what I've come to is it's going to come down to you, like you kind of allude to. It's going to come. I know our offense is going to be fine. I'm not as concerned about our offensive line as I had been. So it's going to come down to this quality, and we've been hearing about this LSU offensive line. And that's going to require Danton Lynn to dial up some stuff to get bring those extra rushers, to get Nussmeier uncomfortable and try to keep him uncomfortable all night. Because if he has time to throw back there, I think USC will be able to stop the run. I think they can make that happen. Not completely erase it, but keep it in check. I've heard people talk about they're going to run all over USC and run down the road. I don't think that is going to be the case. The question is, and I do think we will match up well against talented wide receivers. Lacey's going to get his, right? And if you give Nussmeier time to throw, he might get a lot more than we think he's going to get. So the key to this game is going to be twofold. One, keeping Miller Moss upright. And two, getting some kind of a pass rush on Nussmeier. And if USC can do both of those things, I do see USC coming out with a win. 38-30 will be the score. USC Trojans wins to start out 1-0. Now here it's your time, you guys. We're at the end of the show. I told you, I want you guys right now, everybody. There's not a huge crowd out there, but there's about 172. I don't know how many of you guys are here in the chat, but of the 172 people that are watching, go ahead and give us your score right now. I'll start posting them up. I usually don't do this, but I'm gonna throw up the scores that we get. So right now is your opportunity in the chat. What do you think is going to happen in the game on Sunday? Is LSU going to win? SC going to win? Is it a blowout? Is it a tight game? Go ahead and drop your score predictions in the chat right now. Remember, we are moving. I was going to show our old banner, but we are moving the Monday show, to Tuesdays. That one is set pretty much in stone. Tuesday show will be moved, correct, Matt? Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Instead of the Monday at 7, it's now going to be Tuesdays at 7. Matt and Mark will be locking that down. I will be joining on occasion. I will not be at every show, but I will be, I guess, Matt, like a special guest star on certain weeks. Definitely on our bigger weeks, I'll definitely be there. And then this call-in show, I'm getting people blowing me up, Matt, upset, saying they're not able to make the Thursday show and why do we move it, etc. So we might have to revisit that as well. But the call-in show is going to be, I know this, it's going to be either on Thursday or Friday, and I know it's going to be either at 7 or 8 o'clock. That's all I do know at this point, because it's Thursday at 7 is kind of hard for me to do, Matt. I got to say, I can do it once in a while, but I think every week that might be too hard for me to do. So we either got to move it later on a Thursday, which is going to piss off all the East Coast people, or we can move it to Friday, which is the day that is going to upset me because, again, I want to get out to high school football games. So we're going to have to find something out. I think we're probably going to settle on the Thursday later show. That's the only thing I can think of at this point, Matt. You and I will have to discuss that. But
okay.
It's definitely up in there, you guys. It's definitely changing. So we got some scores. Here you go. Let's go over the scores really fast. So let me roll it up as far as I can. I think it starts here. The first one came in here. Forgotten Man. Forgotten Man's got USC 45-21. Let's see. Mike Gibbs 42-17 Trojans. Right on, Mike. We have Randy. Randy's got 35-31. Randy is the first person I've seen from the Twitterverse. Thank you, Randy, for your comment from Twitter. 35-31 Trojans. I can see that. Absolutely. It's really close to mine. Let's see. Roger Dodger is going to be very conservative and call 149-0. Or is that an O for Coach O? I can't. That looks like an O, not a 0. Okay. Then you have Ray coming in with 49-24 USC. A lot of disrespect for Blake Baker and his defense going on right now, Matt.
I mean, seeing these blowouts, like you're just tempting karma, right? Come on.
Or they're going to shine on Monday and be staring at us going, "What are we so chicken?"
I want to be seeing people saying, "Oh, LSU is going to take USC to the woodshed, and we're just little old USC, and we have no chance." Like, come on, be Lou Holtz, play possum.
Some people see it half full, Matt. Some people say it half full. All right, Lee Walker, 27-21.
Okay, there we go. A reasonable score.
I like all these scores. I'm and you know what? By the way, Matt, we won't know if these are reasonable scores until about halftime of USC. We really don't know. Here we go.
I'll just say this:
Roger Dodger has a couple touchdowns, so he must have stolen a couple drives.
I will say this:
23 drives.
I will say this. I would put all my chips into the middle of the table for LSU plus 24.5. Okay.
We got more. We got Derek.
Go.
Derek's really close to mine. 1 point off. I had 38-30. Derek's got 38-31. See anyone else out there getting on board on record here? We have a Ray to Rumble. Well, now hang on. Okay, we can't end in a tie.
Okay. Now, how many of you in the audience immediately thought about Harvard beats Yale 29?
Wait, my bad. Sorry, it was a typo. Okay.
How many of you thought about that? The epic 1968 Harvard-Yale game.
I'm going to be shocked, Matt. Not everybody's an encyclopedia like you. I'm going to be shocked if anybody thought about that game. We'll see.
The older folks in the crowd probably thought of it, a few of them.
Okay.
Our older demographic.
How are you? Has the flip side believing that Danton Lynn is the one that's going to get lit up and USC struggles on offense? We got Right On Fight On 35-31, a tight one. Great job. Thank you for supporting the show as always, Fight On. Appreciate you. Let's see. Any other scores? Supermax getting in there 38-31. I mean, we're starting to get kind of close to a consensus with that 38-30, 38-31 kind of thing.
None of this 49-24 stuff. Like, that just makes,
I like
38-31, that's good. 35-31, yeah, right there.
Bring on 55-10. I like all those scores. I am
55-10 was 49ers over the Broncos in Super Bowl 24. Like, that was the ultimate. That and Bears Patriots were the ultimate NFC AFC blowouts.
We've been watching football long enough to know that we could throw predictions. Predictions are fun, but predictions go right out the window at kickoff. And a lot of teams that we thought they'd be close games turned to blowouts. A lot of teams that were blowouts turned to nail biters. So that's why we keep tuning into college football, is because you really don't know what the score is going to be. And the nice thing about this USC LSU matchup is there's a redemption story somewhere. One of these teams is going to come away, at least one of these teams is going to come away saying, hey, look, we really looked like an incomplete team, an unbalanced team last year. We have made the steps. Well, they've all taken steps, but we're going to decide if one or both of them took the steps that are needed for them to be competitive in both their conferences this year.
One more note about this game, just worth underscoring the point in terms of the benefit it can have for recruiting and changing the perception. I mean, obviously, USC winning this game does a lot in and of itself, but remember, this is a standalone game on Sunday. There is no other college football game being played Sunday night. There is no other college football game being played at all anywhere on Sunday. So this is a unique stage. USC and LSU have it all to themselves. That's going to magnify what happens. I mean, if you win a big game on Saturday, it still is a huge thing for you, but those games are competing with other games. You have Notre Dame A&M, you have Penn State, West Virginia, Clemson, Georgia, Miami, Florida, all the rest. This game, standalone. And so USC stands to benefit even more exponentially if it can win.
Mike turning up the heat, saying it's not Bama, it's not Georgia. Oh, he said Bama, but I'm not sure if it's a typo or if he actually meant that. He might have. Here we got another one. Adam is not feeling the optimism. Why is Matt getting excited? Adam just said we're going to lose. And look at Matt. I haven't seen Matt this happy the entire show.
It cancels out.
We're losing, and Matt's doing some fist pumps.
It cancels out the USC by 25 picks. Like Adam is trying to anti-jinx this thing. Lou Holtz style. I like it. it.
I also like blowouts, and again, this is the chat. The good news is that no matter what we put in this box, it's not going to change anything. This is what it is. What it is. This is us showing our chops and how close we are. And I'll tell you what. Did anyone see a 55-19 blowout in that Orange Bowl? I don't think anyone did. I don't think anybody did. You're sure there's some people just like everyone was at Woodstock, from that generation. I'm sure you got a friend. Everyone's got that friend at the tailgate. Oh, I knew. Oh yeah, I knew. I knew we're blowing them out by touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. So blowouts are cool. And listen, I have mad respect for anyone that takes their shot. If you think that's what the score's gonna be, either way, we had a blowout score for LSU, a blowout score for USC, and I can tell you guys right now, we don't know what these defenses are like. We don't know if Garrett Nussmeier has turned in, has turned the page. He's not making those horrible decisions. We don't know if USC's fixed the right side of the line. There's a lot of unknown things in this game. We do know there's tons of talent. We do know there's some great coaching staffs. We do know that guys are going to be ready to play. But the score, again, I got mad respect for anybody from either side calling blowouts because that's going against the grain, Matt. Everyone's saying it's to be a close game. I like the outliers. I like the people who are willing to say, hey, you know what? I know everyone's saying it's to be a close game, but I think that LSU is going to blow them out, or I think USC is going to blow them out. So keep them coming. We got a couple more minutes here before we get out of here.
One thing you'll note, people are either picking like 6 to 8 or 4 to 8 points or 25 to 30. No one's picking a 14-point game. I haven't seen anyone picking a 17-point game or a 20. It's like either like 24 or 7 and not much in between. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think some people, I think a lot of people in the scores they've been giving, I think that they think that it's going to be tight. And when you see scores like this, because giving up 33 points is not necessarily a huge victory for the defense, but when you're playing offenses like are going to be in this game, that is mad respect for a defense. There's no shame in giving up, 38 points, 35 points to LSU or to USC with the offenses that they've been putting out year in, year out. The receivers, they're going to be at both squads year in and year out. There's no disrespect to a defense saying that you're going to hold them to 30 points. You're going to hold them to 33 points. That to me is actually a sign of respect. I did not see Search. Maybe he's not here anymore. Maybe it's late. I was waiting for his score prediction, but it looks like we're going to wrap it. Barry, great supporter of the show. Thank you so much for being a member of the channel as well, Barry.
A 14-point spread. There we go.
So Barry's kind of pushing it, Matt. He's kind of one of those guys that are saying not a close game. And I think Barry whispered to me just now that he thinks that's a 28 points. That 28th point, that last touchdown comes in garbage time. He actually thought it was good. It was a 42-21 game going late into the fourth quarter. No, I'm kidding. I obviously clearly made that up, but
and one final note about scores. Hey, there's a 15-point game. One final note though, like if either team holds the other one under 28. All right, I'm going to circle 27.5 for gambling purposes, or 28 for just regular whole number purposes. One team holds the other under 28, that team's winning the game. I think that's the magic number. If we're talking 30, 33, kind of like in 50-50 territory, like, you know, if you can hold them under 31, that's kind of a notch. If you can hold them under 35, that's kind of a notch. But if you can hold one of these teams under 28, that team very, very, very likely to win the game. So that's my number, 28. Under 28, you probably win the game.
Roger Dodgers getting some backup, another 140-0 coverage. And then Zero Cool had a closer game. Well, not really. What am I saying? I misread that. I thought it was 32-27. It's 32-17. Danton Lynn and that defense getting it done. Another super chat for you, Matt. You want to hit that one really quick?
Yeah, so RD2 Rumble, aka Alan Maddox, thanks for the super chat at $5. LSU isn't risking a shootout. They're going to run the ball, limit the possessions. LSU getting into a shootout would be stupid. USC O and D line holds, we win. Well, I mean, USC O and D line holds, we definitely going to win. In terms of getting into a shootout being stupid, you know, that depends on game flow. The part there is, can USC's secondary hold up in one-on-one matchups? And if it can, then yeah, a shootout does not help LSU. But we need to see it first.
Yeah, just like in every game, it's definitely to come down to the line play. And I think more than anything, in a game where there's like two lines that are really struggling to, where line play has been really difficult in the past. Two teams that have need to show that they can, stop the run. This game is very important to both defenses. So I think that's it. I'm trying to get the last call in here. Caller, if you could hold on 1 second, because you were waiting 20 minutes. So I want to see if I can pull this up, Matt. Any final thoughts, Matt? We kind of covered it. We got a couple more scores. If you want to hit this, there's a couple more scores here. If you could bring them up for me while I'm doing this.
Let's hit the final call.
If you could bring those scores up for me while I'm trying to get the last call.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. All right, well, I think I dumped it. So I'll go. So it's 41-27. Randy with a victory as well.
Yeah, and then Anthony. Yeah.
42-28 USC. Good call. So again, we're all over the place on the scores, Matt. I'm glad we didn't see a bunch of blowouts and a bunch of close games. I do think there was kind of a consensus that we're going to looking at a closer game, and somewhere it looks like most of the calls were between 30 and 38. And a lot of them were coming, obviously, because we're at a USC show. Most of them were for USC. But what'd I miss? Oh, shoot. There's a game that came down to the end. See, I think we missed a couple pretty good games. I noticed in the chat, although I never love it when the chat signals out to the rest of the people there's a close game going on. So, like, the attention goes away. But thank you guys all for being here on a crazy schedule, on a crazy Thursday night. We will try to solidify. But the one thing we do know is that Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. is a new Monday show. So we were doing on Mondays is now moving to Tuesday. Same time, just moving from Monday to Tuesday. We're going to try to figure out the call-in show will be the best time. Heck, we might even move this thing to Sunday on a regular traditional week. We don't know. Instead of having it maybe during the week, that'd be great for me if we move this thing to Sunday every week. That's also an option. So make sure, again, last time, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. It helps out the channel very much. And it gives us an idea. When you subscribe to the channel, we know we're giving you guys the content you want. And that's the best way to get us to do the same thing or at least more of it. Matt, so I think we're out of here. We put our time in. We appreciate you guys. If you guys see me on the field on Sunday, please say hello. Let me know you're a viewer and we could chat really quick. Appreciate that. Or if you see me anywhere in Las Vegas, stop by, say hi. I'd love to hear from you guys. I think it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. Matt and I both have a close game, USC winning. Again, move the time from Monday to Tuesday. And I think we're going to see everybody. Well, Matt's going to see everybody after the game. It could be an hour.
Give or take an hour. Give or take an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then we want to share with you a benefit for everyone at the Voice of College Football, a benefit that you can take advantage of as we close the show. Anything
All right,
else,
guys?
Okay.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, showstopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
Well, fight on, guys. Again, beat the Tigers, and we'll see you guys all. Well, Matt will see you Sunday night. I'll see all you guys next week. Fight on, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.